Hey, what's going on, Ramley? Welcome back to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports. This is your daily dose of Los Angeles Rams news. Skinny T straight from Carson. He was at joint practice, Rams Saints joint practice. So going to bring us all the tea from what went down during that session. Yesterday, Wednesday, the Rams were supposed to have a joint practice with the Los Angeles Chargers at their facility in El Segundo at the Bolt. Those two teams play this weekend. So they're going to have a joint practice and then play the game at SoFi on Saturday. However, the Chargers, I'm sure everyone's heard by now, the Chargers are so injured that they canceled joint practice just basically right after last week's game. Saturday or Sunday is when they announced they canceled it. So the Rams scrambled. The New Orleans Saints are hosting their training camp down in Costa Mesa at the Chargers' old training camp location, Jack Hammett Sports Complex down there in Costa Mesa. So Les Snead, Sean McVay, the powers that be got on the phone, talked to Kellen Moore, Brandon Staley, all there, Mickey Loomis, and said, hey, let's make this happen. Let's meet midway at Carson at the Dignity Health Sports Park complex. And they threw it together. There was a practice. Skinny T was there. It looked like a whirlwind. How are you doing, my friend?
It was a whirlwind. The players arrived maybe 40 minutes before 11, before practice was about to start. So yeah, it was, it happened though. Plays were made, balls were thrown, temperature tantrums were had. Not really.
Well, yes, balls were thrown, but not by one Matthew Stafford yet again. Held out as we expected. He didn't practice Monday or Tuesday, so we knew he would not be participating in this Thursday joint practice. After practice, which you will obviously speak more on right now, but Sean McVay did say that that Stafford will go through a Saturday workout yet again. So just your thoughts on McVay's comments on Stafford and any update there.
Well, one thing I always find troubling, he said the word hope. He hopes that his back is going to respond to this weekend's workout. And last week he hoped for the same, and it was a pretty bad result. So I hope that his hope is met this time around. And then another telling comment is that they're still trying to get a handle on if what he's going through is more pain tolerance or if it's something more mechanical that he's trying to work through. And still no clear answer from McVay on that. He said, we're still trying to get our hands around this. So not giving us any more confidence than he has in the past, with going from week to week or day to day to week to week. Now we're on hope, a wing and a prayer. Maybe they're going to roll in some witch doctors, see if they can work something out, get all hands on deck for this. Cause they're throwing everything at this thing, back specialists, RVs with red light therapy. It's all happening. But I have no more confidence in this, and we're just a few days closer to week one. And that's, as we've discussed, week one is great. If he's suited up and he's on the sideline for week one in his uniform and everything ready to go, that's one thing. What happens after he gets hit by Danielle Hunter or in week 2, week 3, can his back hold up to anything more than 60 passes, in some workout?
Yeah. We're officially in like spin season right now, right? Like PR spin season. Obviously McVay and the Rams are kind of doing their own kind of spinning, but you can see even the great, I love Peter Schrager. I think he's fantastic, but we know he's like McVay's guy.
He's in the pocket.
Yeah. He's like the Rams PR spin. Like when the Rams want positive stuff leaked, they go to Schrags, and Schrag will go on Pat McAfee or whatever and leak it. And he was just yesterday saying, yeah, Stafford wants to be out there. If this was a real situation, he'd be playing. Like, I don't think there's any concern. I mean, how do you want to spin it? I don't doubt he would be out there, but like we said, and we'll end with this. We're going to take too much time on this, but as we said last episode, like, what does the recovery look like? Like, if he threw passes against air, not in pads, and it's taken 4 days, 5 days, and he still can't go practice. I mean, what happens when his backup left tackle and DJ Humphries lets a guy get by and he gets blown up in the back on his blind side because Alaric Jackson's not playing also. Like, this is kind of a perfect storm. The fact that he's dealing with this and their newly paid starting left tackle all likely will not be starting the season as well, as he still deals with blood clots. So now you have a backup center, a fairly good one who's had a good career in DJ Humphries, but not ideal. Not ideal. Like, what we really need, Skinny, and then I'll go back to you. Like, we need Kelly Stafford to get on her podcast and drop some truth bombs on us. What's really going down? Because we know she'll just say it.
What was it? Her that came out last year or a few years ago and was like, Matthew Stafford after a game, like, basically crawls to the bathroom when he wakes up.
I'm sure
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, Alaric Jackson also, I didn't even see him out there. Nobody quote me on that. But he certainly wasn't in pads, and he certainly wasn't with the team practicing. Terrence Ferguson also in street clothes. No update on Ferguson right now.
Gotcha. So I guess with that, was there any other? I think I saw you had said that mostly everyone else was back out there. Landman, any other injury updates?
Manuel Forbes was back out there. Jared Verse's knee seems to be doing just fine. He was suited up and practiced in full capacity. So all good news on those injury fronts.
Perfect. Great. Well, that's good to hear. So, well, similar to Anchorman's Panda Watch, we'll keep Stafford Watch updated and lively for the Ramley out there. All right. So pertaining to this actual practice, I'll let you kind of lead this discussion, but I guess we can start on offense. Again, Jimmy G's not going to, I highly doubt, I don't know if McVay's officially announced it, but highly doubt he will play this weekend against the Chargers. I'm sure it'll be a heavy dose of Stetson Bennett. Maybe we'll see Dresser win out there. But so this was Jimmy G's real preseason game. Let's just start with him. I know you're the Jimmy G fan favorite over here. How did Jimmy G look?
Yeah, not great. So the Saints pass rush was going after him for sure. And that was a big difference I would note between the Cowboys and the Saints was the effectiveness of the pass rush. And I'll say there was a lot more rotation within the offensive line. Dietrich was rotating in, Warren McClendon was rotating in at right tackle. We had DJ Humphries and Quessenberry out at left tackle. So there was a lot going on there. They didn't just trot out their 5 stalwarts at that position. But when Garoppolo's under pressure, he becomes a less good quarterback, like all of them out there. But errant passes, off-target passes, putting the ball in the wrong spot is particularly putting Davante Adams in a bit of danger, kind of going over the middle, getting him to really go up for a pass could in a game situation be very dangerous. Through an interception, and took some sacks as well, probably 3 or 4 by my count, but a lot of pressure. So you think about Brandon Staley running this defense, compared to, let's say, the Cowboys. What is Brandon Staley really known for? It's those complex coverage structures. And I think, along with the pressure, you add that on top. Really hard day for Jimmy G. That's what equals up to. So, from an offensive perspective, Davante Adams, Puka Nacua, they're still great. But it was harder to get your hands around the rest of it. Kyren Williams broke some explosive runs. Jarquez Hunter, big man, trucked a guy in the middle of the defense again. Really impressive day from him. Blake Corum had a nice explosive run as well. So the offense is still moving. Jimmy G's having problems.
So would you, and you kind of alluded to it with the rotation, but from your summation, from what you saw, would you say today was more of an offensive line issue or more of a Jimmy G issue specifically?
Well, it's
or just both. Just the front, the protection wasn't there, and Jimmy G just wasn't able to perform under pressure.
In a clean pocket with 5 starting offensive linemen, he's going to look a lot better. I guess I should clarify that is when Jimmy G is protected, that he's a much better quarterback. everybody is, but some guys particularly fall apart. I'd throw Darnold into that world as well.
Jared
there's
Goff,
other
kind of throw in there.
Yeah, Jared Goff is a perfect example. But those coverage structures, they were given that was a Jimmy G thing.
Okay.
He was having a hard time there. So, in those weeks when he's well protected, if he's playing, that's great.
Well, and against this Brandon Staley defense, and that's when you say, hey, let's just run the ball. I think we just run the ball now.
Which is a hole in Brandon Staley's defense, which is, lends to probably why everybody had a couple explosive runs today.
There you go. So yeah, eat where you can eat, and don't where you can't. So it sounds like, the offense had some good things, some bad things. Did it feel? Well, okay, I'll ask this at the end because that's more of a full thing. So moving over the defense, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise based on just following your reporting. Sounds like the defensive line had a good day again. But just what were your kind of summation of the defense? How they performing? Kellen Moore, first-year head coach, but obviously we know he's a great offensive coordinator, great offensive mind. Now running the operation there with the Saints. The Saints maybe have the worst quarterback room in all of football, or at least the least experienced. There's no argument there. And so how did this defense go up against that QB room? And did the D-line eat? And did the secondary look as strong as they did, I guess, against Dallas?
Yeah, I'll start with the back end just because that's probably where there's a lot more questions. And they performed really well. And while the quarterbacks in the Saints room are untested, unknown quantities, certainly no all-stars on that squad. They have some good weapons. So I will say that once again, the secondary held up in a very admirable fashion against those guys. They gave up some explosive plays. One particular to Rashid Shaheed. Two, a 20-yarder and a 50-yarder. Mm-hmm. And then a really confusing, it just seemed like the defense was off kilter on this play, but it was a less than a 10-yard, just kind of a crossing route to, I'm forgetting, Tipton. Mason Tipton is his name. And he took it for 60 yards for a touchdown. And it just seemed like everybody was out of position. Just one of those things they'll look at the tape and certainly answer some questions about how that happened. And then, I particularly really zeroed in on this, 11-on-11 red zone period with the defense. And of the 10 series or 10 plays that they ran, the Rams held up great in 8. They allowed one kind of sneaky touchdown, just kind of a short, just across the goal line, just zippy pass right in there. They allowed a touchdown there. Cam Akers, he ran one in.
Yeah, forget he's in New Orleans now. Look at that.
Yeah. So he just kind of got outside the edge, broke containment there, and got in for the touchdown. But on the rest of them, the secondary held up just fantastically. Cam Lampkin with a nice PBU there, and then the defensive line really got it done. Multiple pressures, 2 sacks by my count, and an offensive a false start caused by Jared Verse just breathing down that left tackle's neck. So yeah, all in all, really, really fantastic work from the defensive line. They're going to be the ones that are going to be driving this defense all season long. Mm-hmm. And they look fantastic. Once again.
Obviously we've only seen one actual season and then now just training camp. So we're getting ahead of ourselves, obviously, but we're starting to get to that territory based on how this defense has looked against their own offense, against other offenses, where we're in that conversation now of like, how long will Chris Schula remain a DC before he starts getting head coaching looks? I mean, we know the Sean McVay tree tends to get looks a little earlier than other trees. And Chris Schula now, what he did with that defense last year, as our theme of the year was better than expected, having to rebuild it without Aaron Donald, and they were definitely a serviceable defense with the talent they had. And now going into this year, you have arguably the best defensive front in football. He's obviously been involved in those draft rooms and strategies and getting those guys in good positions. And then the names that he's been dealt with at linebacker and the defensive back room, no disrespect, but I feel like he is proving what coaching can do, right? Like when you can get more out of your players than what is expected, like, yes, that's the guys working their tails off, but that's also coaching strategy, scheme, all these different schematic things. And so we're getting to that conversation maybe after this, depending how this year goes, of like, all right, is Schula the next? Like, everyone's talking offensive guys, and Mike LaFleur, will he start getting some looks? Probably not head coach, but actual play calling OC. But maybe Chris Schula starts getting the nod there. And it's funny. I'll toss it back to you after this, Skinny. It's funny now, back-to-back years, we've gone into camp with like, okay, this offense should be elite. There should be a great offense. The defense is where the questions are. And now back-to-back training camps, it's the defense looks really good. I don't know what to make of the offense. Now, part of that's because Matthew Stafford hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
But it is ironic that now 2 years in a row, a Sean McVay-led offense, we have more questions about the offense than we do the defense.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens like that. In terms of Chris Schula, I think that he's proved that he is a player developer. So the big question is, can he put his stamp on this team, and just in terms of, what is the Chris Schula defense exactly? And we're getting senses of it, and it's a fantastic combination of what Staley did, and then also just redesigning the front, from scratch, really. So he's obviously kind of in that from the front on back mindset as of right now. But he's able to develop, you're thinking about guys like Jalen McCullough, Charles Woods, undrafted free agents playing well and a lot of snaps. And, perhaps that's something he picked up from Raheem Morris, because he was kind of the one that, he was dealt in 2022, that secondary, he had Darian Kendrick and Kobe Durant, two rookies starting, fourth, fifth rounders to day two for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of similar guys. So, that player development piece within the Rams organization definitely allows them to fly under the radar in terms of keeping guys on the staff, because, the scheme itself isn't shining. I mean, you look at Brandon Staley, 1 year, best defense in the league, moves on as a head coach for the scheme and can't run a team necessarily. Whereas I think Chris Schula is probably at this point more equipped to be able to run organization. So, but he's flying under the radar in terms of the scheme, I think. But that's no fault of his own. That's just kind of how the NFL is working right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it speaks obviously to Aubrey Pleasant too. So, I mean, you see this in all facets of football, college level too. Like, Schula may start getting some head coaching looks. Aubrey Pleasant will probably start getting some DC looks. So if Schula is able to go, then maybe they promote Aubrey Pleasant. I mean, it's all those things, and we're getting way ahead of ourselves. But just on that point, like our own Nico just had an interview we just published over on LAFBnetwork.com. Everyone should check it out, with Shawn Dolak, who was out of University of Buffalo. He was an undrafted free agent, signed with the Rams, kind of like one of the darlings. He's been one of the darlings of camp, but obviously got more recognized last week during the preseason game, had a good preseason game there at linebacker. And, in the interview process, talked about why he chose to sign with the Rams. Because when you're a UDFA, then you get to choose. Like, you're not drafted, right? Like, usually some of the guys only get maybe one or two offers, but some guys every team calls. And so they pick where they want to go. And he said he chose the Rams because of the way the staff develops players. And I don't know what the salary offers were, if he got offered more elsewhere, but based on what he said, it was strictly because guys like Chris Schula and the guys in the linebacker room develop guys. And so he could go as a UDFA, and seeing how many UDFAs make it with the Rams, he has that opportunity because of the development to not only make the team, but make an impact and then further his career from there. So, just more glowing reviews, I think, of Chris Schula, and how long we get to keep him. We'll see.
Yeah, especially within that linebacker room. I like what you're saying there about Dolak. You think about a guy like Christian Roseboom, who probably would have been discarded, cast off pretty early on, but they kept him in the building. The Rams kept him in the building and developed him, and they didn't re-sign him, but he got another job, and he was a starter all of last year. Now, was he the greatest linebacker out there? No, but within his realm of expertise and development within the Rams, he got to a place where he's in the league, and that was no guarantee for a guy like him. Yeah. So I think that's proven.
Then Troy Reeder, another undrafted guy out of Delaware, and he's been in the league now quite a few times. And and obviously had a stint with the Chargers and now back with the Rams. And I know they just signed him, but Nate Landman was an undrafted guy. They love their undrafted linebackers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's kind of end with this, unless you have any other standouts. But like, when you look at, you are at both now. When you look at joint practice with the Cowboys, joint practice now with the Saints, outside of the hosh posh kind of thrown togetherness of it, what was kind of the vibe? Did it seem more intense, less intense? Was it just kind of a quick get in, get out in 2 hours? Like, just what was the actual, like, vibe surrounding this practice?
Yeah, it seemed a little less intense than the Cowboys one. And maybe that had something to do with the nature of it being, a little bit thrown together.
No
This
fans,
one wasn't,
I assume, right?
No fans involved. There was, a couple of moments of chippiness, but not anything near to what happened at the Cowboys, which, was well contained in and of itself as well. But, everything was a little bit more dialed in, a little bit, more tightly contained in terms of all of that. And, I don't know if that was by design, if that's a Kellen Moore, Brandon Staley influence as well. But, these guys are, I would say there's a good amount of focus. I was kind of observing Kobe Turner going through his pre-practice warm-ups. The guy is dialed in. He's got his noise canceling headphones on, not connected to anything, not playing anything.
Just cancel out the noise.
He always kind of a smiley guy. He was stone faced and ready to go for this one. So, there wasn't a lot of, I wouldn't say it was unusually down, but there was a more dialed in Rams team. But to kind of go back out to standouts, got to shout out Landman, forced fumble today.
Nice.
That's becoming his specialty. I also wanted to shout out Kanata Mumfield. Well, he didn't have a great day across the board. He was in the rotation with the first team. They were rotating guys in pretty heavily with that one. A lot of 12 personnel, a lot of 11 personnel. But of note, he was Stetson Bennett, connected on two just incredible 20-yard simultaneously, the same exact play, just kind of a corner out route, connected twice, just back to back on that. And he made two really athletic plays on those balls. Just kind of fun to see.
Love it. Yeah. Fantastic. So, well, good. Well, it sounds like a worthwhile joint practice anytime they can go up against someone else. So, that is good to hear. No injuries came out of it, right? So clean slate.
Yeah, no, it looked pretty clean.
That's great. That's probably most important. So, but your Rams will be playing the Chargers this weekend at SoFi. Some more preseason action. We'll have all the coverage for you right here on the LAFB network. I'll also be getting up here soon. Sights and sounds. Skinny got some great video while I was out there. So if you want to be able to see in the moment, because no fans were out there. So I'll be able to get something up on that here soon on this Rams LAFB YouTube channel. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We'll also have it up over on LAFBnetwork.com. Anything else for us, Skinny, or we can wrap this thing up?
Well, just a peek behind the curtain. We are, as Rams beat reporters, as credentialed media, we're not allowed to take video of the 12 on or the 11 on 11 segments. So I apologize for not getting that kind of stuff out onto social media, but I want to keep my credentials as long as they allow me to. So that's just a side note. It gets out there. I'm not sure who's all taking it, if it's Saints stuff, but we're playing a longer game. We're trying to keep those credentials going forward. So but I get as much out there as possible.
Yeah, with any sport for that matter, all media is given like a strict viewing period where you're allowed to photograph and film. And so when there's certain practices that fans are at, they're obviously filming everything. So that's how a lot of that stuff gets out. Whereas the media actually can't film it or you'll get in trouble, even though the fans are doing it. So it's like I feel like if there's a practice that fans are at, there really shouldn't be any rules, because then it's like, why can they do it, but not me when this is my job? But when there's not fans there, then I get it. Like, okay, you button up, like these are the viewing periods. But anyway, besides the point. Hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your Thursday. We will certainly be back here soon here on the Rams Skinny with plenty more Rams coverage. Everyone be well, be safe. For Skinny T, I'm Ryan Dyer. Talk to you all very soon.